What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, our Wednesday afternoon show presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub in Cask and Company Kitchen and Bar, the OGs of Couch in the Rube sponsors. Look, we always say our sponsors have to fit us, and no place has ever fit us better than Front 43 and Cask and Company. That's why they were the originals. That's why we approached them. They've been with us since the beginning, and it's why we recommend them all the time to people from out of town, in town. Where should I take somebody to eat? What should I do? Front 43 and Cask and Company, 2 adjoining restaurants, 1 fantastic modern American Asian menu, everything from great sushi bowls to burgers to flatbreads, outstanding drink selection, 2 distinct vibes, and a great reservation system at caskandcompany.com. Jason, how you doing, brother? I will.
What's up, buddy? By the way, shout out to Matt Drolet yesterday for his, I don't know, is this AI or, what happened?
It's just
Graham Couch's leftover lube. This isn't like a meme. It's like an AI-generated kind of thing.
On Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah. It was very, very funny with you holding a loop. Like, it looks, like, are you flattered by the, like, interpretation of you?
Well,
AI-generated cartoon?
I am.
It is a cartoon.
My wife does not like that that's how people think I look. I actually, when I look at myself in the mirror, especially from like a side angle, just how hideous my profile shot is, I am not offended. I think that guy looks bubbly and happy in the cartoon. I am good with it. And there are
Your hair looks good, like, why would she be mad at that? Like, so you showed this to her. She saw this.
Yes.
And she was offended the way that's how you're perceived, but it's AI generated. Like, it's just telling you the truth. I don't think that's terrible whatsoever. I think you look kind of funny as a cartoon, like you look good there.
There are a couple of varying editions going around, too, that include me, like, watching Hallmark on the treadmill. I mean, watching soccer with my wife.
You look good on here. So your wife sees this. Kermit the Spartan put this on here.
Yeah.
So she's offended. She doesn't think this is what you look like in cartoon form?
Well, think about this. If you're my wife, and you've decided to marry this hideous creature who was, in her defense,
I'd want to marry the cartoon.
A little bit lighter than when we met.
Yeah.
And a little bit lighter when we were married than I am today. And just looked a little, it hasn't necessarily aged well. You might be naturally just sort of embarrassed by my appearance. And you're like, God, I could have done better. And so when you see, you're hoping people see maybe differently than what is.
But this isn't people. This is like putting into a WW, ones and zeros and going, Graham Couch, Hallmark movies.
Yes.
This is like someone didn't do this themselves,
Maybe
right?
It could have been art. I mean, this could have been 2010 style art.
But again, I don't see this like, I think this looks like you. Like, I would take this version.
Not offended. Not offended.
Because I'm with you. I have seen pictures of myself from behind, and I'm like, how do I not get punched in the head constantly?
It takes a really good angle to make you look good.
Dude, we are all about, you and I know our angles, so I totally understand what you're saying.
This is why we love Muskox flannels, because, it helps us in a lot of different angles.
But it's better than a real picture for me.
Yes.
I would rather have the cartoon version of me than the real me out there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why that Elizabeth was offended.
Not offended.
Is she going by Elizabeth Wolf today, though, after she actually realizes instead of Elizabeth Couch?
She's in Chicago for work. She left. She was like, I'm getting on a train. I'm getting the hell out of here. I can't.
How great is that, though, as a married guy? Love our wives.
Yeah.
But, man, when they go out of town, it's just like, and by the way, I don't really ever do anything different.
No.
But it's just kind of relaxing to be able to sit in the middle of
you don't have to be on your
sit
toes.
on the couch and smoke a joint, Maybe I'll pull the door open, maybe I won't,
Instead of doing the dishes every day, I do them once right before she comes home. Things like that, things that
you guys don't have a dishwasher?
We do, but I mean, even
Are you taking credit for doing dishes?
Yeah.
Even though the dishwasher, like,
you still have to load it and unload it. rinse.
True. All right. You made it sound like you're doing pots and pans. And
This is a show I've been looking forward to because not only are we going to have Shawn Windsor on here momentarily and talk, about MSU athletics, Michigan athletics versus the NCAA, the Tigers, maybe even some prison stories that we didn't know he had.
That's interesting.
But this is a redemption show, I think, for you and Harry with the U.S. Open bets after what happened with the PGA.
And the Masters.
Yeah. Right. So this is
not been great in majors.
This is time. So we are going to get into that.
Had a top 5, Sepp Straka at the Memorial, though. That was nice to give out. I did give out a couple golfers that did play well at the Canadian Open. So I have a lot of confidence. I have a lot of great golf bets for sure.
And I have one Club World Cup bet.
We'll save it to the end.
That I like. Yeah, we'll save it to the end. Do you want to get Sean on the phone and we'll get that conversation going? I mentioned Front 43 and Cask and Company earlier. Again, an unbelievable reservation system, and I do recommend if you're going, especially Thursday through Saturday night, go to caskandcompany.com, make a reservation, say which side you want to be on. If you want a booth, you can say that right in there. It is fantastic. I always make sure I've got a table because they do well, and I'm very pleased they do well. It's been. I think all of our sponsors do pretty well, but this has been fun to see just how busy and appreciated Front 43 and Cask and Company are, and that's just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, near the Lansing, East Lansing border. Very pleased now to have our friend Shawn Windsor from the Detroit Free Press, esteemed columnist, noted member of the Blue Wall. How you doing, sir?
Not too bad. How you doing, Graham? It's been a minute.
It has. It's good to hear your voice, to be honest. I missed you last week. You were at the J Batt, introduction ceremony, press conference, pep rally, whatever that was, and I was out of town, and so I wanted to get your perspective on things. I read your column, good column. It wasn't earth shattering in terms of like obviously football is where the priority has to be and raising funds for football. But what was your, as you think back on that and the state of MSU athletics, what is your sort of takeaway on him, first impressions, and on where MSU is?
Well, Graham, I think the most important part of that day was that you weren't there.
Yeah.
And I heard, and I don't know if you've talked about this with your listeners or not, I don't want to talk out of school here, but I heard you may have been involved with something related to Shakespeare. Is that true?
Well, I take my mom and sister. My sister and I take my mom to the Stratford Festival every year, and we don't always go to Shakespeare, but we saw. I would recommend it. By the way, if anybody goes, the play Forgiveness is unbelievable. Best thing we've ever seen there. And we saw like 4 shows in 2 days. It's an annual trip, and J Batt and the AD ceremony didn't really fit our schedule, so I wasn't there.
No, I thought that was great. I thought what a good son, and obviously a good brother. You remember, of course, the great Hondo. Can I say the great Hondo? That's how he would describe us, right?
Oh, we talk about Hondo all the time here. Yeah.
Okay. The great Hondo Carpenter. I just want to say, I think what he would say right now is that you are the best son in the world and probably the best brother in the world, too.
Yes.
Going to Stratford and doing that, right?
He once described me in an early interview. This is before I even worked at the LSJ. And I think Western Michigan was playing Michigan State or something, and he had me on whatever radio show out of, Punxsutawney or wherever he was. And he described me as a better husband and father than I was writer. And at the time I was single and still without children. And I was like, I don't know where this is coming from, but I'll take it. So that was his usual intro.
Oh, I'm sorry to get off topic. It's just, oh God, yeah. He described me as an amazing father one time, and he had never seen me with my kids. But that's how it went. So my takeaway on J Batt, he sounds like to me the most. Well, first of all, he sounds like somebody that can convince people to do things, and that's really what stuck with me. And we kind of hate to say this, or maybe we shouldn't hate to say it. It's just the reality, but that's what that job is right now. Remember, starting in before we were born, or at least in this business, a lot of coaches would come and take that job, right? Basketball coaches, football coaches, a lot of places. And it's not that it was a figurehead job. There were plenty of innovative, creative athletic directors in the 60s and 70s in terms of, facilities and starting to market at that point. branding and all that. Michigan had a well-known AD back in that period that did a few things. I think of God, well, why can't I think of Mark Hollis? Getting
Sure.
the carrier
Yep.
game
Yep.
and that sort of thing, right? And that's all great. The uniforms that Michigan State went through under Hollis, the football uniforms in particular, right? I mean, they weren't Oregon, but still they got some play on those sorts of things. So maybe that wasn't the most critical part of the job, but that was a big part of the job then. And it's not that it's not now, but it's just about fundraising right now. And I think the most important thing that Batt said, and he's got a real skill from what I've seen so far of saying things without sort of giving too much away, but making it sound confident, is that, hey, people give to people. When you're talking about donations, raising money, people give to people, not necessarily institutions. And he said that not at the podium during the main news conference. You're talking about the pep rally part of it, with the intro fight song and so forth, but kind of in a film room off to the side when he met with reporters after. That's when he said that, and I thought that was the most critical thing he said, because that's true, right? People give to people. I mean, yes, the Michigan State alums, they want to give to Michigan State, but they're not giving to the football program or the basketball program or the Spartan Stadium or to the Breslin or to Tom Izzo, whatever. They're giving to J Batt.
And they want to give to people who make them feel. They want to give to people who make them feel important. And one of the things is, especially now in the NIL era, and who knows what. I mean, certainly raising funds and being creative in how you raise money beyond just donors is going to be more and more important, because it's the revenue sharing. And if you can afford to do the revenue sharing and keep a lot of what else you have, that's ideal. But beyond that, there's just no way in heck that, and I apologize for saying heck, there's no way in shit that that is going to be it for how players are paid. I know right now it's like anything over $600 goes through this clearinghouse or whatever. But Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama are not going to allow themselves to be on the same plane as Purdue. They're not, like, to win a national title, you're also not going to be able to fully cooperate with the rules, so to speak. I don't think you can be fully compliant, but also you need to be nimble and figure out what that's going to be. And to me, NIL as it exists today has less return on investment than any other giving. And so you've got to convince people to do that as well, and give in ways that they don't necessarily always see a ton back. So they got to feel that they're involved and good about how you feel about them, and that the ask that they're important. I think you're 100% right there. I just and I think Alan Haller understood that. He just couldn't execute it.
No, for sure. And it's interesting. It's not that J Batt is just a money guy. He talked about how much he loves to go to practices. Pick up field hockey practice, or just name the sport, whatever Olympic sport. He sort of said, if times get a little bit, if he's having a particularly stressful day, or he needs to catch his breath or something, he said, leave the office and look at the schedule and go sit in a corner and watch a practice to try to, first of all, he loves to do that. He loves sports. He played soccer, Division I soccer, when he was in college, but he just likes to be around, and so that part of the job is important to him too. I don't think he's going to not pay attention to all the sports and all the other parts of being an athletic director, but they clearly hired him, and you could see that within the first 2-3 minutes he got up on the podium and listened to him. You could see that's why they hired him, right? The way he sounds, the way he's got kind of a low key charisma, the way he presents himself, the fact that he raised almost $300 million at Georgia Tech, the fact that he was the director of I can't remember the exact title, but director of revenue under Nick Saban. I shouldn't say under Nick Saban, but let's be real, it was at Alabama. Yeah. That's what's happening here. And I was with you. I liked Alan Haller and the way he carried himself, but that wasn't. I mean, that part of the job, I don't know if he struggled at it as much, but it just wasn't where Michigan State felt like it needed to be, and that's what J Batt's all about.
Well, my sense is Kevin Guskowitz, the president there, never had complete faith in Alan Haller, and he inherited Alan Haller, and so he had time to evaluate him, and I just, and I from what I understand, and probably should have done more reporting on this on the front end, because I knew there were some relationships with donors that were fractured during their football coaching search when they weren't included, and when he went alone, partly because he didn't trust the community around to keep their mouths shut and to get Jonathan Smith. But the degree in which those relationships hadn't been healed and were struggling, I don't think I realized. And some of that, I think, was pettiness on some of the top donors. But nonetheless, they are the top donors. Like your responsibility is those relationships. And so that, and Batt comes from his earliest days were working in fundraising. Like that's his initial background and foray into athletics before he was an athletic director. And so, I didn't think you needed somebody with an athletic director background, but you needed somebody with a background in fundraising at an elite level and getting a place where fundraising isn't automatic to win in that account. Because I think Michigan State, he said something interesting. He said Michigan State can be a top 10 athletic department. And that's maybe a bit lofty, but I think he's in the ballpark. I think top 12 in the Big Ten and SEC, which is, about 34 schools. It is 34 schools. And like that is, if you're in that realm, I think MSU is capable of being in that realm. And if you're there, which means your football is really healthy, then you are a place that is going to be playing meaningful games in November every year. And then we saw under what happened with D'Antonio. And if you're rolling at Michigan State, you can roll with the best of them, but you have to get rolling to a certain degree, and they're just not there right now. No,
not in football. And it's interesting. I thought he said, in fact, I wrote about this, that they were a top 10 program, and maybe that's sort of kind of wishing it into existence. But I'll give them. To me, there's some important context here. They have been. Right, I mean, you go back 10 years, and they had a season or a calendar year anyway, where both the football and the basketball team were in the last four, the Final Four in basketball and the football playoff, the college football playoff. So it can be done. We've seen it, right?
Yeah. No. It's now this is it can be done in the previous era. Now, what's going to be interesting here, and the reason they've got to raise money in football is, D'Antonio was the best you can ever hope for a developmental program, right? Out-recruited people, found his own guys. Like a couple of those recruiting classes in the 2009 through 11 would stack up. If you were to redo Rivals rankings, would be like top 5-10 classes. Like they were really, really good. Now, they weren't at the time considered to be as good. But so you had that component, you had the development component, but people didn't leave. So what Michigan State at the very least has to become is a place that has the revenue that when somebody comes in to poach Nick March, or comes to poach Aiden Childs, or whoever the guy they develop, the best offensive lineman they develop, or whatever it might be, they never lose that guy. They have the resources. Whatever it is in the recruiting stage, I think is less important than making sure the guys they develop stay home and you're able to continue to develop within a program. And, right now when Derek Harmon gets, poached by Oregon, they have no way to match that a year ago, right? And so they've got to be in a situation. I do think the revenue sharing will make this interesting. Because, I'm curious what you think, Sean, about where revenue sharing goes. Like, right now, everybody's going to have about $15-16 million for football. And so that it's almost like baseball and I guess the NFL to some degree, but even baseball when there's, where you get teams that aren't as high market or, high payroll teams, if you spend efficiently and do things right, you can put together a good roster, a pretty good floor if you're one of the halves to that level. I'm curious to see what you think will develop beyond that, and because that's really the question then, is if some schools are still able to spend $30-40 million on a roster and others are 15, or if everybody's going to be in that 15 to 20 million range.
Well, to me, the key is because I don't know if there's going to be some kind of hard cap, right? You're talking about the 15-16 million. I've seen it could go up to 20 million. I know it's going to be a percentage.
It's 20.
Right?
It's 20.5 for right. It could go up 20.5 for the athletic department. Everybody, the Big Ten minimum I think is 12 million. Everybody's doing like 75% to football, and then a chunk to basketball, and then a little to everything else. So everybody in football is doing 15 to 16 million of that because you still have to give $3+ million to men's basketball.
Right, and that's going to vary. That might vary by a little bit here and there, depending on the school and the nature of the basketball program and so forth. Yeah, to me though, it's it kind of combines. You mentioned the NFL, where there's there's a salary cap in the NFL, the NBA too, and there's not in baseball. And it's like baseball in that the NIL is still out there. And as long as that stays the way it is, you're going to have revenue sharing for part of it. And then you mentioned Alabama and Georgia and Texas. Name your school, name your big brand school. They're going to be able to still go raise a whole lot more than that for NIL monies. To me, the key is, obviously, and Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State has to raise the funds of those schools quite at that level, but they got to shrink. And I wrote this too. To me, they got to shrink the gap.
Yeah,
that's the key. And then what's going to happen as revenue sharing becomes more established? Are we going to start seeing contracts, right?
And multi-year
in other words,
yeah.
Exactly. In other words, is it going to get harder to leave? Are you going to have to worry about raising money as much to keep them, or are you going to be raising money mostly to attract them and recruit them? Because if you have contracts, and then the players are going to unionize, right? So, to me, those are really important questions in terms of what the landscape's going to look like. And then where are you diverting, or not diverting, but where are you spending those monies? By the way, let me ask you sort of kind of an inside baseball question, but just a broader picture for our state here and on the interest level. So I went and wrote a column off the J Batt press conference. So did Bob Winowski for the Detroit News, and we ran into each other the next day at a Lions practice for minicamp in Allen Park. And the numbers, he was telling me, it was one of his least read columns of the year, and it was for me too. And I don't know, obviously your audience, the folks listening right now, are heavily invested. But what about when you didn't write this, but what can you tell from the Lansing State Journal? Because I'm curious what the interest level is with all this. Are readers and fans starting to get so tired of this and the money talk? And with J Batt's hiring, like, okay, let's see what happens. Wake me up when the football team starts becoming competitive. What are you seeing? Because we're really starting to get the sense that people are just getting sick of this.
Well, yes. I mean, there is fatigue in this. There's off-season fatigue. There is, I don't even share recruits when they commit in football anymore. It's not news to me. It's not. When they sign in December, that's news. But they have no longer earned that right. This boy who cried wolf to have their day as they did anything because there's too much history with them backing out and going to a different school. And at this point, they come to MSU, they might transfer. The odds that somebody who commits in June will ever play a meaningful snap for a school are pretty slim at this point. Or at least I think that it feels that way. And we probably need to do more of an analysis on how many are actually following through. But to me, it's just not news, so I'm not going to report it. I don't really care. Now, if there's a string of recruits who commit, and it looks like the trend or an uptick, that becomes a story in itself. But no individual recruit really is on their own, a story itself anymore. So I think the offseason is something that is – but to that degree, like the column I wrote Monday, quick takes on why he got hired, did fairly well, subscriber column. I think some of it, like for Bob is viewed as like Harbaugh's right-hand man, blue wall guy. Fair or not, right? That is so. Michigan State fans see Bob's column on Michigan State, and they just, I don't think he's earned that audience, is what they think, right? So they're not. That's his problem, whether it's fair or not with that. But I do think there is fatigue. I do think it is. It's. Yeah, I just think there is. It's also early June. It's an athletic director hire. People have heard it before, and they want to see action before anything happens, and they don't necessarily trust what's going on. But I also think you get a lot of people writing about the same thing in the same day. You know how that works. It doesn't always. It can affect.
And you have to do it. It's a big deal. It's news, and we're always going to cover it. It's just funny. We're joking about the blue wall at the top of the show, and I'm sure there's some of that plays into it for us too. And it's funny, not that I want to switch subjects here necessarily. It's your show. But for us, we never thought that, and by we, I mean the Detroit Free Press, I can't speak for the news, but we never thought we'd see anything push or approach the Lions coverage for the Lions numbers or the interest level for the last couple of years. But the Tigers right now are getting close.
Okay, before I want to
unbelievable.
I want to get to the Tigers with you real quickly. I want to touch on Michigan and what you think what you think is realistic could be a punishment when the NCAA comes down with its enforcement, probably, I'm guessing, in early August, late July at the very earliest. They had their hearing on June 6th and 7th. How serious you think that could get for Michigan?
That's a really good question. I didn't love that the self-imposed 2-game suspension is not the first 2 games of the season, right? And they didn't do that, obviously, because Sharon Moore's ties to Oklahoma, and I'm sure he didn't want to miss Oklahoma. But you're saying, okay, we're going to pick and choose the games that aren't going to hurt us as much. And I don't know if the NCAA is going to care about that or not, but I didn't think that was a great look. I mean, Harbaugh was suspended, 3 games, the first 3 games of 2 years ago, his last season, and then the final 3 games?
Something like, yeah.
Yeah. So to offer up only 2 games, I could definitely see Moore getting suspended for more, and I could also see them saying, hey, we're going to pick the games for you. Beyond that, are they going to – I mean, when's the last time the NCAA really came down on somebody and did something that really hurt their ability to go out and recruit or limit the number of scholarships or something like that? It's been a minute, right? So I mean, what are they really going to do?
Yeah, well, I guess I think the question will be, are there vacated – like they can't mess with the playoff. They don't control the college football playoff. But they can I guess they could vacate games to some degree from the years that Stallions was a factor, and those were Big Ten championships and one national championship year. And that would then further taint, right, the idea that they won a national championship or Big Ten titles in that year. I guess that would probably be the biggest punishment to a legacy because, right now, most Michigan fans you talk to, they're I mean, some are not happy with what Harbaugh did in the Connor Stallions era, but most still sort of say, without any sort of asterisk, they won a championship. And there are fan bases that say, well, you did, but you did it by cheating. And I think if you further put a black mark on that, it gets easier for people to say that wasn't real. I guess that would be the worst thing they could do. I think more than even stuff down the road. And I don't know how fair that is to the current players, although it's easier for them to transfer today than ever. But I think that would be the worst thing that they could do. I don't know.
Yeah, to a degree, but look, for Michigan fans, they've been living with this right since they won the title. And they for the most part, and I'm around them myself, for the most part, they don't care. Yeah, they don't love it, and they wish maybe some of it hadn't happened. Sure, but for the most part, they don't care. Meanwhile, the rest of the country feels, well, maybe not the whole country, but a lot of college football fans out there feel like it's tainted already.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they could make that a little, hit that harder a little bit. Maybe that would, if they did that, they had to vacate some of those wins. That would do that, because then you have the NCAA saying, but still, how much is that going to matter to Michigan fans, right? They'll just say what they've always said. Oh, everybody steals signs. Whatever ridiculous arguments, right?
Yeah. No,
they've been living with that for a while, and I think there's not pride necessarily. I think Michigan fans are like, hey, we're winning. We won. We just joined the big boys of college football, right? How do players get paid before NIL and all that? These are the arguments you hear all the time. They know the rest of the country's against them, and they just don't. Michigan is, and Michigan fans are, right? I mean, maybe it stings a little, but they've been living with this. They've been fending this off. They'll just say, "Hey, we just went and beat Ohio State without a quarterback."
Yeah. No, and again, it's it'll be very interesting because I think this is the test case for what teeth the NCAA has left. I'm very curious to see what happens. All right, let's talk Tigers. It's the unifying team in the state of Michigan, bringing Michigan State and Michigan fans together for 100 years. You talk about they've caught the Lions and the idea of the popularity. You can see it in like the page views and the I did not expect this coming into the year. I bet them to go over 83.5 wins, sort of as a reason but I didn't feel good about it. I thought Parker Meadows' injury, he was such a big part of the run at the end of last year. I didn't know if they'd continue on it. I certainly didn't see them being arguably the best team in baseball. I know there are some teams that I wouldn't pick them against if they went head-to-head right now in a series, but record-wise they are. Like, how much of this could you see coming, and where are you most surprised?
I didn't see this coming at all, to be honest. I don't. Maybe the Tigers did. They picked up that crazy run they had starting mid-August last year. I mean, they're more or less winning at that pace.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 20 games over 500 right now as we speak. They're 44 and 24. 44 and 24. Yeah. I mean, this is the first time they've been 20 games over 500, and I want to say since 2013. And they're doing this, without. Well, they have Parker Meadows back now, but without Meadows for a lot of the start of the season. Matt Vierling, I think, has played 4 games. They lost Casey Mize there for a stretch. They don't have Reese Olson right now. They don't have, Jackson Joe, but I know he's a young pitcher finding his way, but he obviously showed a lot of promise. He's out. Some of their bullpen arms have not played. It's that's what's crazy. What nobody counted on Javi Baez. Did anybody count on Spencer Torkelson?
Not a soul.
He had a 2-run homer last night in Baltimore. Say what you will about his average, but his OPS, his slugging, he's on pace to hit 38 home runs. The Tigers weren't even sure, right? They were not penciling him in.
There was a chance
February in Lakeland.
No, there was a chance that Javi Baez and Spencer Torkelson wouldn't be on the roster at this point.
Exactly, and they weren't fully counting on that, right?
And Casey Mize has been, I know he's been dinged up a little, but I think maybe the third of those 3, but a revelation as well. So when you talk about Mize and Torkelson, 2 number 1 picks that they were counting on that looked like potential busts, and all of a sudden you're getting, what looked like, these guys are, I don't know where, I'd say they're better cleanup hitters than Torkelson, but certainly he is a guy who's a legitimate middle-of-the-lineup power bat, right? He has become that, and he hits in big spots. And the thing that you never counted on before was coming up with a big hit at the right time. And Mize has become a guy who's a legitimate top 3 starter in Major League Baseball. And like those are things you just those have propelled them tremendously, I think. And I do wonder how much they saw any of it coming. I think this has all been best case scenario, outside of the injuries in terms of those 3 guys.
That, and then Zach McKinstry, who's having basically a career year, right? How about Dylan Dingler?
Yeah.
Right? They obviously liked him, but the way he's playing, the way he's hitting, the combination of, his arm, the way he's starting to frame pitches, he's starting to catch Scooble, and then you throw in this offense, right? Maybe they saw that more than Baez and Torkelson, and you keep, I don't know about you, but you kind of keep waiting for this to stop, right? At what point you can say, okay, this is just who they are.
Right. It's the way they win. So they play a Baltimore team where not everything goes right. They don't have their best pitcher on the mound. Their bullpen is just so-so, but they do enough. And they get the Torkelson big home run, and they get, McKinstry was phenomenal, and they win 5-3 in a game that, just, an otherwise forgettable game in the middle of June. But those are the things. Those are the games they win every time now. It seems like, it's just
They throw Brant Herter out. They list Gibson Long, as the starter, but they decide not to bring him in the third because Baltimore starts off their lineup. They got 4 or 5 lefties to start, and Herter's really good against lefties, and so he starts the game. It's a pitching chaos. It's really, look, it's not that they're the only team using math and percentages and pitching chaos, so to speak, but it's really something. And I look, I don't want to say that they're right there with the Lions. Peak Lions, peak Tigers, there's still more NFL fans. It's just the nature of our culture and our society and what sport's most popular. But the pennant race, it's been, look, I know they got to the playoffs last year and they had a great run in August, but I wrote about this and went to a game last weekend. First weekend with schools really out now and summer's here. It has been since 2014 maybe that the Tigers have gone into June leading the division in the middle of a race like this. It's been a long time. So I think that's part of it too, right? People are starved. And now you're starting to see, well, why is Hinch starting? Why is the lineup looking like this? Why did he pull this pitcher? And not give him another inning, whatever. People are starting to get mad at these day-to-day decisions. This is how it was under Leland when they were really good, and everything was getting second-guessed. That's part of the fun for fans, right?
Yeah.
As exhausting as it is to write about.
Well, yeah, but it's fun. It's fun because you went a lot of years when there wasn't this. When you got to the summer and it was like, oh boy, you're just waiting for this football season. You're waiting for college. There were a lot of years where the colleges had to carry. The Lions were down, the Tigers were down, Red Wings were down, Pistons were down. I was like, there just wasn't anything. There wasn't any hope, and it's been fun to watch. What do you think they need to do if you're the Tigers and they're the conversation now begins about what do they need to add, because they're obviously going to be in that realm instead of sellers, and they don't have their full team yet, so I don't even know if they know exactly what they can be. But I still think if you're going to be this good and you're going to maybe coast into the postseason where you're not even in a race to earn a playoff spot, then you can think about how do you build a lineup that wins postseason series, and that should be the goal. Like, what do you think they should or should think about adding before the trade deadline?
Well, it's interesting. Scott Harris was, of course, the man who runs the team, the general manager, the president of the team. He was on a local radio station in Detroit actually this morning. And he was talking, he said, we are going to be buyers. I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but they're not going to sell, right? They're in the business of adding to the team, something like that, is what he said. He also said they don't, within reason, he couched it a little bit, right? Again, because they feel like they have a young, developing team with a really good farm system, and they want to give themselves as many chances at the World Series as they can every year. He absolutely said they're trying to win a World Series this year. And so they're going to add something. He also said nobody's untouchable. So that's good news, right? Maybe he didn't go all the way and say we're going to go, break the bank and make the run this year, give up whatever. But so to answer your question, I think they need probably a right-handed batter, a right-handed bat. They could use another arm of the bullpen. I mean, they've still got some guys out there. We'll see if they come back and what kind of shape and what kind of form they're in. But they could definitely use another arm in the bullpen, I would think, especially maybe a bullpen pitcher, a reliever, a high-leverage reliever with an out pitch. They don't have much of that right now. They've got students, they've got mechanics, they've got really good pitchers, but they don't necessarily have somebody that can a swing and miss guy in the bullpen. So maybe they could something like that. That would obviously cost more. Those guys are very, very valuable. And then you wonder with the health of the rotation, would they consider another starter? Although Flaherty's starting to come into form. Reese Olson was looking really good before he got hurt if he comes back. So that's 3. If Mize continues to stay healthy in the form he's shown, then maybe you don't. You got 4 guys in your pitching cast. After that, it's hard to say when Jackson Jobe is going to come back, if at all.
And it is weird because you get to the postseason, you really need 3 to 4 starters, because there's so many breaks, and you don't, it's a little different than a regular season. All right. Lastly, I don't know where this came from, Sean, and you and I have been on the road, and we've been in many haunts, many college towns. I've heard many of your stories, some of which I'll never repeat on air. Past relationships and such. But I heard you have a prison story, that you were actually incarcerated at some point. And I had never heard, I don't think I've heard this before. If I must have been, several whiskeys in if I had, and this is something that the Rube, Jason here, relates to with his 72-day stint in the Ingham County Jail. What is your prison story?
Well, prison is, it wasn't prison. First of all, can't we just talk about the fact that 3 or 4 years ago, none of these 4 teams down here looked like they were anywhere near a championship, and now you're arguing, okay, who's closest, the Tigers or the Lions? And could the Pistons jump up in the next couple of years? No, it's radical how that's changed. No, I spent a few hours in jail. It wasn't even a whole night. I had my buddies come.
Okay, so what did you do?
Bail me out. Oh, it's lame. I was on a motorcycle at that point. I didn't have a car. I was riding what was it? I had a Suzuki 250 2-stroke Enduro. It's a dirt bike, but street legal. And I don't know. It was banged up, and in fact, it got stolen at one point. And the cops found it, and it was even more banged up after that. And I think maybe I had dumped it. Somebody pulled out in front of me before, so I had a smashed tail light, maybe. on one side. You had two taillights, right? And then so I had some things wrong with the bike, and I didn't have the money to fix them. I was just a struggling college student and shorter to cook and so forth. And I probably had some outstanding parking tickets, and I got pulled over and they took me to jail. So nothing exciting.
What was it like in jail? Did they rough you up at all?
I was grateful. The thing I was most grateful for is I was leaving a bar, and I'd left a bar with some buddies. And I wasn't drunk, but I had a few beers in me, right? Back then I could actually drink more than half a beer.
Been a while.
And I thought if they did a breathalyzer, then I was going to be in deep doo-doo, even though I wasn't really drunk, but I definitely had right? You know how if you drink enough,
yep.
If you drink enough, you can not be drunk, but your blood will say otherwise.
Correct. Yeah,
body,
yeah.
Right, so I was kind of in that state, so I was that's what I remember most about that night. That and then my pals, who also didn't have any money, banded together and collected enough money to come get me out, so I didn't have to stay the whole night. But so I was in there, and it was spinning a little bit, but it's nothing exciting. It was just, how did this even come up, by the way?
Jason, how do we find out about this?
I listened to the Drew Lane podcast, and you do a podcast with Mark Fellhauer, I presume, and he mentioned it on the Drew Lane podcast that he had a Shawn Windsor jail. Excuse Graham, because he gets prison and jail confused a lot. He meant to say jail, which I spent 72 long days in. I'm sorry about your 2 hours in there, Sean, but that's where we heard.
I have been in prison before, but as a journalist.
You went undercover,
right?
In prison.
No, I was in there to interview somebody.
Oh, damn, that would have been even better.
A former Michigan running back. It was a great player by the name, Tony Bowles.
Okay.
But I've been in a couple other prisons too for work back before I was a sports writer. But yeah, jail and prison. I'm sorry that I don't have a more exciting.
It's still good. It's still better than anything we got. No, it still adds to the aura of who you are, and we all appreciate that, Sean. We very much do.
Yeah, well, you know how it is. Nobody wants to read a memoir. Not that I'm worthy of that at all. It's funny. I used to have people. They hear some of my stories and say, "Write them down." I'm like, no. In this area, you can just go on your buddies and friends' radio shows and podcasts and just sort of parse out little bits and pieces of your great Santini life, with your stepfather running around naked with an empty whiskey glass and Richard Nixon mask. You know what I mean? You can just drop little nuggets like that, and that's a memoir.
Your stories are always beautiful. I enjoy hearing them. I hope we're on the road again soon, Sean. I very much appreciate all the time today, man. Look forward to catching up soon.
All right. Always a pleasure, Graham. Take care.
It's the great Shawn Windsor from the Detroit Free Press, who did not spend time in prison, but a couple hours in jail.
So you spent time in prison? Tell me about that. You're such a fool. And by the way, the only podcast host who will reverse censor himself to say heck, you go, I'm sorry I said that. Shit. Which didn't really fit it there either. And you sports writers, you guys are hilarious. You're like, is anybody reading this J Batt? Nobody's been reading our J Batt stories. Like, because they're all the same. He's into football. He didn't say anything, right? Like, that's why no one's really reading that. If there was something worth reading about J Batt in from those papers in Detroit, that's why, yeah. And you're right about Woj. That's why no one's reading his shit. But as far as Windsor goes, it's going to be there's nothing to read.
Well, yeah.
Is there a take in there, or is there like a, that's what you have to put out something that people want to read.
The headline, right? The headline was something that I had written several times over already.
Like I read yours. I've heard other people's J Batt.
Yeah,
it's just like you see it, you go, okay, I'm not going to touch that whatsoever. Yeah. What does Lowe's think?
Lowe's would have come with flamethrowers. That would have been J Batt has no chance at Michigan State. That would have been the headline if so
I've heard you were in prison. Tell us about that. poor Windsor, he's like, oh, no. Because I thought he wanted to change the subject when he did went to the sports thing, right?
That was hilarious.
I thought he was totally going to just completely ignore him, like, oh, man, this is a really good story. But he did get out of a DUI. I mean, that's impressive.
Absolutely. There's no way I was letting him change the subject. There's no
way.
I
thought that, right? That's where I thought he was going.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a really quick break. When we come back, we will do our U.S. Open bets, redemption time with the great Harry Gagnon. Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar, just north of Frandor on the Lansing-East Lansing border.
Firekeeper's online casino and sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop.
Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. It is time now for the great Harry Gagnon from The Ringer, from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, from BetOnline.com. Harry, we've missed you, man. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's everything?
Good, good. We're just glad you're back from Europe and alive and all that stuff.
Seeing Bruce?
Heading back on Tuesday, though.
Of course you are.
How many times have you seen Bruce? Like over there?
Boy, over there.
Where you're at? I don't know.
Well, in Europe, probably 15 times, probably 20 in the States. Ridiculous. And I got 5. When I go there, I got 5 more concerts in 3 cities.
And you've met Bruce, right? Have you guys?
I have.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Because I saw Bruce, because he's over there doing those concerts, and they had video of him yelling at these guys. Apparently, these guys follow him around asking for autographs, and he's like, "I ain't signing for any of you guys," and then just walks right in. And that's kind of wild.
He sounded like a crank. He really sounded like a cranky old man there, didn't he?
Well, yeah, but you have to understand, those guys, they're probably in their 40s, and they're walking around, they're bugging Bruce like everywhere he goes. Like, it has to be bad if Bruce Springsteen is willing to do that in front of all of those cameras, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, and from what like it's his kind of assistant. Me and my buddy know pretty good now because he sees us at all these spots, and a lot of times we're kind of in the same hotel. And if you're staying in the same hotel as Bruce always likes staying in top-notch hotels. So, like that guy said, he gives people who are staying in the same hotel as Bruce, he gives those people a bit of a leeway where it comes to autographs and saying hi and shaking his hand and taking pictures. So I guess that's what it is. So we've been the beneficiary of that a couple times, me and my pal. So all works out pretty nice for us.
What if I would have told you in 1996 that you would be staying at the same hotel as Bruce Springsteen in 2025? That's wild, right?
Yeah, wild, insane. Yeah, it's like I didn't even like. I wasn't even that big of a. I'm a pretty big fan, but I wasn't even a fan of all his stuff then. I just basically knew, at that age when I was like 20, 25, 26, I was just like into the, Born in the USA stuff. I didn't even know his other stuff.
Well, Harry, first of all, Champions League final, pretty sweet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That
sounds like it.
Yeah, I was very envious.
I was over there, right? And it was. Did you have it? What'd you have?
Oh, I had a great future on PSG. I had PSG 18-1. So I was very happy with how that played out. Yeah, that was a good day for me.
When that match happened, I was actually in France, but I wasn't in Paris. I was knowing the game played in Germany, but still, Paris obviously saw some craziness. The fans celebrating afterwards. I happened to be right in the southern part of France. I was in Nice, and that was just a blowout from the beginning, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, they were just over. I've never seen a team that overwhelmed in that big a game before. It was incredible. It was incredible to watch.
More importantly, how hard is it to get weed in France, Harry? The weed sodas. Is it hard? You got to go in the back room or something?
It's pretty hard. Pretty hard. I couldn't find it anywhere.
France is off the list then.
I know. I had my stash. I had my stash of gummies still, which got me through. Got through customs, and they don't check for that stuff, so I had those.
Right.
Yeah.
Melatonin gummies. Am I right? That's how I got him to Mexico. Therese had no idea that she was a drug mule. It was great. I put him in her bag.
Well, Harry, today is Redemption Wednesday for all of us, especially for you and Jason on the golf bets. Jason especially.
Yeah,
really,
Graham thought the U.S. Open was like 3 weeks ago, so he doesn't really.
Every week, Jason's like, I got golf bets. I'm like, oh, sweet, the U.S. Open's this week, and it's never.
No, that's the Memorial Couch.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah. But Jason had a particularly rough go in the last couple of majors, so we're hoping we can help him out here and sort of go through our picks for the week and things that we. That we like at the U.S. Open. I have one soccer bet for the end here.
Yeah, we know
it as well. Club World Cup future. I think there's some potential there. Just drop something on. Anyway, so do we want to do this again, where we just kind of go around and
let's go around.
Sure.
Go around and
I have about 5 of these of my bets here. So
okay. Well, Jason, why don't you lead us off since you're very excited about this.
All right, boys. We're going to do a smart bet to start this off. We're going to do a top 30. It's not crazy. Harris English, runner-up finish at the PGA Championship this year, top 12 finish at the Masters. He's going to be a hot pick. Played Oakmont in 2016. 6 top 30s in 8 starts. Top 30 for Harris English. Also, I'm going to add to that. This is going to be a 2-player, 2-leg parlay. Shane Lowry is the second part of this. Ranked second in strokes gained, strong iron player, which you're going to need at Oakmont. 5 top 25 finishes in his last 6. His game kind of fits this Oakmont grinded out kind of course. Plus 268. That's my first top 30 parlay.
I like it.
We're going smart first.
Smart.
I got a
before
couple.
you go big.
There's a couple little sprinkle long shots on my card. So you guys.
All right, Harry. What is your best look?
That was a good one. I like that one too. I like. How about this? 2 players here. I'm going to do 2, not a parlay, but just 2 players to miss the cut. And I'm going to take Justin Thomas at plus 166, and I'm going to take Rory McIlroy at plus 235. Now, from everything I've been reading about this course, of how thick the grass is going to be on the, outside of the main straightaway of the green of the hole, and the trouble that I've seen over the past, I know Rory has the Masters. He did get it done, but he was terrible on a course in Quail Hollow, what he's used to, for the PGA, and Justin Thomas just hasn't been. I know he's got that one win this year, but other than that, he's found himself, I've seen a lot of times, in trouble. And if these guys aren't hitting the fairway and these guys are in this thick rough, I could see these guys, and I could see those guys getting double bogeys way more than they should be. And I could see this being a problem the first 2 days, and definitely, even if I split here, I still make a profit with Thomas and Rory missing the cut.
Okay. I like it. I love the miscut bets because you're rooting for disaster. And
I have one.
Especially at the U.S. Open, where it's the hardest of the. I mean, disasters happen everywhere, but everybody's.
And again, if this like you're not a golf bettor or you're not really a fan of golf, you're going to want to tune into this tournament to watch guys shoot quadruple bogey, double bogeys. And what a better way to watch it if you can have a couple miscut bets.
Yes.
You have to kind of dig and find them on your apps. But, you know, it's a fun bet, especially for this tournament.
Okay. I like Morikawa and Fleetwood top 5.
Ooh.
Those are
what
two.
What does that pay?
No, separately. Not together. Let me hold on. I didn't put the odds down.
Off.
Yeah, hold on. All right, Morikawa top 5 is plus 360, and Fleetwood is plus 500. So
Harry loves Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I Jason's being a bit facetious here, Graham, where I just can't stand Fleetwood because he never gets it done. He just never does. But you are correct. He top 5 is throwing it out there. But I will say this: he is just always. He never misses the cut, and he's always around. You check the second list on the leaderboard on come Saturdays and Sundays, and he's right there, or he's even better after the first 2 days. But then the third day he lets you down. The fourth day plays, okay, but yet at the same time doesn't make a move, but he makes that cut, for makes that the cut for the top 20s and the top 30s, but just can't get it done. But I understand that if you liking him because that's kind of what he does, you're hoping for a little bit better performance out here.
Yeah, you don't need him to win it. He can blow it, but you need him in the.
But also the many live bets you've had where after the third round he's either leading or something. You live bet fire Tommy, hoping that he gets his first win and he just lets you down.
And top 10
he's an easy guy to root for.
Top 10 is plus 240. I just think there's enough juice in the plus. In
I don't mind the Fleetwood. It's
the
Morikawa at plus 360 that I
yeah.
just don't know if there's enough value for me to.
Okay, all right. What is your next one, Jason?
Well, I'm also jumping in on the miscut, boys. And I agree with you, Harry. Rory McIlroy is on this, my 2-leg parlay of miscuts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the presser yesterday, this is obviously a guy. And I don't like looking into these things too deeply, Harry. But he's a guy that's just checked out. He won that Masters jacket. He's like pretty much saying it. And now they're testing his driver. He's annoyed by that. He's annoyed by the press. I just think that he's going to show up. It's shot at 81 in the second round at the Canadian Open to miss the cut by a shit ton. So he's the first one on this miscut leg. The second one, Ludwig Aberg.
Ooh.
Doesn't have the experience at Oakmont, boys, and ranks 129th in strokes gained putting. And I know that, his 7 unders and T19 finishes have kind of fooled us a little bit, but the stats don't show that he's going to perform well at Oakmont this weekend. Plus 927 on this 2-leg parlay. Rory and Ludwig Aberg to miss the cut.
I like it. I love it.
I see that you guys like my picks when I use the music.
I get fired up. Yeah, you need to do the music more, but I do love miscut bets, and if you give me a reason,
the price is good on Rory for sure. Even if you want to just go Rory, the price is. I think it's like Harry, plus 237, 235, something like that.
All right, what do you got? What else you got, Harry?
Well, I am digging the music, but I do. I will when we give our picks to actually win it. I do have a little story here about Ludwig myself. But before we get to that, how about this? You guys, I love the regional picks. So I was looking it over last night, studying it for about an hour and a half, and the best one I can come up with is top English player at 7-1. Matthew Fitzpatrick. Now, you have to beat 10 different guys. The 3 of the former U.S. Open champ will have to probably worry about is Justin Rose, Tyrrell Hatton, and the guy who never wins, like we mentioned, but always is up there on the top of the leaderboard, and that's Tommy Fleetwood. Look, I could see Hatton, who's a hothead, missing fairways, putting up double bogeys as well. And Fitzpatrick hasn't played great in 2025. He has just one top 10, but he knows how to grind out the U.S. Open for 4 days and beat the field. He did it a couple years back. So I'm going to take Fitzpatrick at 7-1, top English player.
I like that.
I have a Fitzpatrick bet as well. I like Fitzpatrick top 10 at plus 650. And also like
Couch doesn't mess around.
Patrick Reed top 10 plus 550. So a couple top tenors that I like him. Fitzpatrick is one of those plus 650.
All right, got one.
Wow.
I'm following Harry's themes here. Top Australian. Oi, noi. It's for Steve. Do this for Steve Irwin, right? Adam Scott, boys. Plus 400. Finished T18 at Oakmont in 2016. Finished T19 at this year's PGA. 9 out of 11 cuts made. He's an old guy. I understand that. But he's a grinder, and I think he can work his way around this course, make the cut, and be the top Australian. Other Australians that are in this, Jason Day, who just came off a wrist injury at the Memorial, Minwoo, who struggled ever since his win at Houston Open, then those are the two favored guys. I just think there's good money here at plus 400. You have Cam Smith, Cam Davis, and Mark Leishman, who I don't think that they're going to be a factor at all this weekend. So basically, you got to beat out Minwoo and Jason Day, who's going through an injury. Adam Scott, oi noi, plus 400. Do it for Steve Irwin. That's the Australian national anthem, by the way.
Is it? I was wondering if that was it.
Yeah.
Harry, do you have anything else before we do our winners?
No, that's all I got. That's what I got right now.
Okay.
That's what I got. Yeah.
Okay. Jason, who are your winners?
As I mentioned, boys, Graham likes to just bring up all the shit bets that I've had this year so far in the golf. I started off great in golf in January and February, won some top 20s there. But I did hit Sepp Straka at the Memorial, Harry, top 5. I did give that out on the show, so you can brag on those a little bit.
Very good.
I have to say, The numbers are there. Has not made the cut in 2 majors this year, Harry, but the numbers say you should back him. 11th in driving accuracy, top 3 total shots gained, approach the green and greens in regulation, 2 wins and a 3rd place at Memorial, which was my top 5, like I mentioned, the cash winner. That's what happens when you read this. 50-1 odds. I wish I would have got on them when they were 75-1 odds. I am sprinkling on Sepp Straka. Sepp Straka is your 2025 U.S. Open winner.
Wow.
All right, Harry, what do you got? Who is your U.S. Open winner?
Wow. Well, Sal sends the for Against All Odds and Cousin Sal's winning weekend that you can catch us on FanDuel TV every week. Sent out the outline for this week's Against All Odds, and he gets very annoyed when he sends the outline and I come up with my picks first before anybody else. And I had picked Bryson DeChambeau at 7-1, and then because the day before on Sunday when we did our Monday baseball pick, I also gave out the Rays, which was a winner, and he was mad because he forgot to put in the outline the Rays, which is first pick. So when I gave out Bryson DeChambeau originally, he writes back to me and the guys, "Fuck off, I'm taking Bryson." So that's what he said to me before I even saw him have a pick. So I kind of had to change my pick from Bryson, but I do. So I'm going to give 2 here. I do like Bryson at 7-1. When they played in 2016 in Oakmont, he finished 15th. And actually in that tournament, Scheffler, just throwing a little note out there, actually missed the cut and shot 7 over that day. But he's the best of the LIV golfers. When it comes to the majors, he's always on the top of the leaderboard. Doesn't seem like anybody else is. Maybe Rahm a little bit, but still, it's basically DeChambeau from the LIV golfers. And he's got 2 majors this year, top 5 in both. And he's got 2 U.S. Opens to his credit, defending champ as well. So 7-1 Bryson DeChambeau. But going against Jay here, I am going to take Abe Oberg at 22-1, 10th in the FedEx Cup standings, 6th ranked in the world. I think a major reason for those numbers is that he doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. Something I can see, like I said, Justin Thomas and Rory doing here this week. I don't see him doing a lot of that. Turned pro in 2023. already 2 wins in 4 seconds, and one of those seconds was in Augusta in his first trip there 2 years ago. I just think that he's great off the tee, 12th, 19th in driving, and 23rd in driving distance. I think that's going to help him a lot here. And he is 28th on tour and birdie average on tour. I'll take a shot with Oberg, who, again, doesn't seem to really blow up too much and is around the leaderboard. Hasn't had a fantastic year this year either, but I'll take a shot here with him at 22-1.
All right, I'm going to kill the creativity here. Just kill it. Because I won on Scheffler last time.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I know plus 275 isn't a lot of juice, but he's the best golfer in the world right now. And he's a machine, and he's not the most exciting guy. And I think there is some value if you can parlay minus 175 for like top 5 finish for Scheffler somewhere. But the other thing about Scheffler is I feel like if he's in the top 5, he's probably going to win it. Like if he's having one, to me, plus 275, it's not the greatest juice. But I'm just going to be, for me to enjoy this weekend, I'm going to be pissed off if he's like up 3 on everybody or he's in the hunt and I just know he's going to win it. And I don't have any action on him, and now the odds are like even money, and after the first day or two. And so if I can get Scheffler at plus 275, I am going to do it. Victor Hovland at plus 6,000. I know we've got different opinions on him about different things, but plus 6,000. I
like it.
I can deal with that. And then Cantlay in the same basic area, plus 550 is long shots for my 3 winners.
There we go.
See if we can hit something.
Wow.
Let's get it done. Let's get it done.
Let's hit, boys.
I think we have to. So one of us has to hit on something here, right?
Yeah. Well, usually I have so many bets that I mathematically have to, but I cannot win money regardless of who wins. That's my usual form in these tournaments. All right, before we finish up, Harry, you have some things. You have a same game parlay and game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. You've got some NBA and also an MLB pick. What's your same game parlay? Let's start there in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Well, over the last 2 shows against all odds and Cousin Sal's winning weekend on sports that's happening that day, I've given out 5 picks. I'm 5-0. I've got a winning streak of 5-0 straight winners, a lot of them pluses, and this is a same game parlay. This is the same game parlay I hit. I told Jay I hit it in the first period the other night in Game 3 between Florida and Edmonton. So I got another one here at plus 116. I'm going to take Evan Bouchard of the Oilers to have at least 1 shot on goal in the first period. He's second in the Oilers on shots on goals this postseason. And Bouchard, in the 3 games of the series, he's got 7, 8, and 9 shots on goal, and a lot of them been early. So give me him at least 1 shot on goal in the first period. He had 4 in Game 3 in the first period. So all we need is 1. And then I'm going to take 2 part here with Leon Draisaitl to at least get 1 point and have 2 shots on goal. He was dismal in Game 3. He had 0 points and 0 shots on goal. I think it's a bounce-back game for him, who didn't have a very productive Stanley Cup last year versus Florida. I expect him to play like he did in the first 2 games where he had 4 shots on goal in both games and also had 2 points in both games in 1 and 2. So Draisaitl at least 1 point, at least 2 shots on goal, and Bouchard 1 shot on goal at least in the first period alone.
I'm rooting for Edmonton this year. To be honest, I don't think they're going to win it, but I just can't stand Florida as a hockey just entity. The idea of Florida hockey drives me nuts. You like the Pacers tonight, and some Pacers bets around the Pacers plus 5 as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what you guys think of the game too. I just think that the Pacers still didn't have as many turnovers as they did in Game 1 as they did in Game 2, but still a lot of turnovers, a lot of stupid play. It didn't seem like they were really into Game 2. It reminded me of Game 5 against the Knicks on the road when they laid up and lost by double digits. But to only lose that game by 16, knowing what OKC did, I think it's kind of gives them a little motivation to play well here in Game 3 at home. I like Miles Turner to have at least 2 blocks. a lot of the games in 1-2. I don't know what you guys thought, but seems like a lot of times Indiana's play. If it wasn't Neesmith or Turner or whoever, Siakam sometimes down low, looks like they're getting killed. And the refs aren't calling anything. At least they didn't in game 1 and 2. OKC had a lot of free throws their way. I think that changes a little bit in game 3. I think Indiana gets some calls down low. They get to the free throw line a lot. I think they can hang, and I love this. NBA Finals, you're getting 5 points at home. Give me that all day, and I think Turner has a big game down low, gets at least 2 blocks. He's had at least 2 blocks in 4 of his last 5 games.
I think if they win this game, too, there's a chance, that means they've gotten out and run. They're able to run a little bit, and so the over comes into play, and I don't feel great about it. I just don't feel like, because obviously the way the game ended in game 1, the Pacers won it and they were great down the stretch. I just don't see enough advantages for them. I don't know. I'm still and I know the Turner matchup and what it creates for Chet Holmgren and everything is something that works to their advantage. I would like the Pacers to win tonight because I want this to be a long series. I just don't know if I can get there, but I wouldn't bet against them too. Not to go either way but I just wouldn't bet against them in game 3 at home because I think that place is going to be a zoo, and I've underestimated them forever and lost quite a bit of money because of it. All right, MLB pick tonight, and you like a 3-leg parlay on Thursday as well.
Yeah, how about tonight? How about this? How about Robbie Ray, -1.5 for the Giants at +138. He's having a fantastic season. He's 8-1 with a 2.44 ERA. Now, I know the Giants have won like 5 or 6 in a row, all by 1 run. But I think they get it done tonight with 2 or more because Robbie Ray, again, has been phenomenal. And Kyle Freeland's on the mound for Colorado. He's 1-8 this season, ERA over 5. And he beat the Giants in San Francisco in early May. I think San Fran gets back at him in a big way. I'm laying the 1.5 for the Giants on Wednesday night. And then on Thursday, how about this 3-team parlay? Mets, Tigers, Giants. I don't think it gets any easier than that. I'll start off with the Giants again. Hayden Birdsong is no slouch with a 2.55 ERA, and his counterpart for Colorado, Antonio Senzatella, is 1-10 with an ERA close to 7. We know how bad the Rockies are. Give me the Giants again. Give me the Mets. Senga and his 1.59 ERA is on the mound against the Nationals. That's 3rd in the majors. And give me, of course, the Tigers with Tariq Skubal on the hill. He gets the call for Detroit. He's 8th in the major league in the ERA at 2.16. And he's really, you guys know, obviously, he's been on fire. Last 23 innings, he's given up just 1 earned run. So give me the Giants -1.5 tonight. Straight bet, and you're getting plus money. And then tomorrow, 3-team parlay. Mets, Tigers, Giants. Oh, my.
You're a beautiful man, Harry. Beautiful, beautiful man. I'm going to leave us with one soccer bet. Club World Cup, all right? And so you look at the group betting, and most of it doesn't stand out. Nothing jumps out. Like you look at LAFC, and you would never take them at +650 in a group with Chelsea to win the group. But you go down to the Group E with Inter Milan, River Plate, the Aurora Red Diamonds, and Monterrey. Inter Milan is a tired old team that's going through some changes, just went all the way to the Champions League final, got hammered. I don't know what their state of mind is going to be in this event. I don't think anybody does. And so Monterrey, which is getting back their star, which is a good team in Liga MX, is at +1750 to win that group. There's no difference. LAFC and Monterrey, the difference between +650 in a group with Chelsea and Monterrey +1750 in a group with Inter Milan, I'm sorry, give me Monterrey +1750. It's a lot of value, and obviously it probably doesn't hit. But you throw $10 on that, and they win a group. That's it's something to root for in Group E in the Club World Cup. That's all I'm saying. That's
one of these matches, Graham.
They start on that particular group starts on the 17th. I think a couple start earlier than that. The first group starts on the 14th. This coming Saturday.
Saturday, all right.
Yeah, and so you start to see group play in the Club World Cup, and those matches are on TNT, which you can see with a Comcast Xfinity subscription. Harry, it is beautiful to hear your voice.
Make sure you get that, Jason. Make sure you get that subscription now.
Subscription? I got to subscribe? I already subscribed to Alice J. 3 of those fucking.
Don't even get it for free, Jay. You got to subscribe for it.
Harry, you beautiful, beautiful man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Harry.
All right. See you guys. Thanks. Good luck.
Oh. What the hell?
So you know how much we talk about loving muskox flannels?
Uh-huh.
This is partly why. Today I wear a Cask and Company shirt. Love it.
Yeah.
Except you can see the sweat marks here on the lights in the YouTube channel through the shirt. This is
you couldn't see it, honestly, until you just pointed it out.
Excellent. I wish I hadn't said anything. But that doesn't happen with the muskox flannel, despite the flannel. Oh, boy.
What are you saying about... Never mind. Their shirts. Yeah.
We do appreciate Cask and Company in Front 43. Unbelievable place to get a meal. I tell everybody that's... Look, when people ask for recommendations, that's what I say. Again, caskandcompany.com for reservations. We appreciate them. We appreciate all of you for listening. Shawn Windsor for all his time. Harry Gagnon as well. We'll be back Friday with your groovy donut Twitter questions. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.